Journaling. That thing that simultaneously everyone and no one is doing. At least that's kind of like the vibe that I get. Either you're doing it or you're not doing it and you hate it and don't want to do it at all. Hey there, my name's Kayla, and today I'm basically just going to be detailing all the reasons why I think journaling is amazing and the best tool that we have to combat a negative or a passive mindset in our lives and move on to bigger, greater, better things. So first, I actually wanted to start out with detailing what journaling is not. Basically, journaling is not prescriptive. And I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong, either when they're trying to explain it to others or if people are just interested and they're looking it up online. I mean, I think this kind of goes for anything in life, but we want like a clear-cut answer. We want a clear-cut definition of like what the best way to do whatever is. And you know, the sad truth is that kind of just like doesn't exist in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not here to tell you that today about journaling, but I will say that if you've ever gone through Google, I've done this before, and you Google, what is the best way to journal? All the answers that you get are contradictory, and it's overwhelming. Like, you'll have the people who are like, you need to journal every single day, like religiously. And then there's other people who recommend just doing it weekly. And then other people who say, you must journal first thing in the morning. It's the best practice. Others say best time to journal is at night. I find all of these suggestions to be a little overwhelming. It's just too much to like digest in terms of like, oh, is this the right way to do it? Am I doing it correctly? I don't know. I mean, I should clarify. Going online and searching what's the best way to journal or to get started is not a bad strategy in and of itself, but I think that we need to remember that a lot of these things are just suggestions, and it's going to take time and experimentation to actually find what works well for you. Because, you know, instilling any type of habit into your life, whether it's like having a normal sleep schedule or eating healthier or journaling, as we're talking about today, if it doesn't fit easily into your life, you're not going to stick with it. I know, like, for me, I tried doing the journaling every morning, and that was like okay for a little while, but I eventually like fell off the bandwagon there. And now I've sort of noticed that like journaling at night is actually a better practice for me. Just remember, journaling is not prescriptive. Like, you have to kind of experiment and go through different types of strategies to find what really works for you so that you can build this practice and down the line actually reap the benefits of it. I will say though, noting the whole everyday versus once a week thing, I don't think that journaling like once every 6 months is really going to be that beneficial for you. And I'll get into that a little bit later in the video. But on to the next part, in contrast to what journaling isn't, I feel like we should talk about what journaling actually is. So first off, unsurprisingly, and this probably doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyways, journaling is supposed to be personal. Journaling is supposed to be your voice. It's supposed to be a place where you can be yourself. And, you know, I remember when I was reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which, fun fact, Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, and his Meditations was a personal journal that has become a best-selling book. I talked about this in another video, so I won't go into too much detail. But I found his writing so, like, prolific. It was just so beautifully written. And knowing that it was more so like a journaling practice for him, I thought, wow, like, am I supposed to be journaling like that? The answer is no. The answer is always no. If you or I are constantly trying to write like other people, express ourselves like other people, talk like other people, walk like other people,
I wanna walk like you, talk like you, too.
We're really just like building up this facade that is comprised of other people's identities as opposed to our own. So I would say, like, just remember, when you go into journaling, like, don't try to be like anyone else. Just write what you think, and maybe even write like the way that you naturally speak. That's a good way to start too. Aside from like voice or tone and the way that you write, also remember that journaling should be an unfiltered space. And you should try to be honest with yourself 100% of the time when you journal, if you want to actually like see the benefits of it. When I journal, I would say that it's not 100% of the time, but a portion of the things that I do journal about is just like people or circumstances that are irritating me at that time in space, or, you know, things that other people did that hurt my feelings or made me sad. It doesn't even have to be like personal. It can just be like out in the world. Sometimes I write things that literally just confuse me or just questions that I have. I also write like meaningless things for fun, just to like keep note of them. Like, let's see, on December 9th, I wrote, I've completely overlooked how amazing the bass line is in the song Stuck in the Middle with You all these years until tonight. Does it have any prolific meaning? No, probably not. Although the bass line is amazing, and taking the example of Marcus Aurelius' meditations, who knows if this might be interesting information in the future. Sometimes I write more thought-provoking statements as well. Like one time I wrote, I don't even have a date for this one, which is unfortunate, but I can't imagine living in a time where my individuality didn't matter. I sort of remember like what was going through my mind when I wrote that, but just like questioning like what I mean by that and like what that says about my current state in terms of how I feel creatively or like what inspires me. But overall, when I journal, it's unfiltered. I don't write thinking that someone else is going to read it, which if other people already journal, that might be kind of crappy. But also, I feel like we go through life in so many different ways, like putting up certain images of ourselves that we want people to see us, like the more professional work face, or the I can't speak, the familial space when we see like our family or how we hang out with our friends. But journaling should be an unfiltered space. It should be a place where you can be you 100% of the time. I find it so refreshing to know that this is just for me, by me. And there's not a lot of things like that we have in our world, so I definitely advise to take advantage of it. And lastly, what journaling is, I also have just found it to be productive to first work through your thoughts, whether it be like about a certain topic or just your emotions about something, before you tell the world them. Because you can think about conversation as the art of persuasion. Pretty much anytime that people are having a conversation, while maybe not explicitly doing this, they are sort of trying to convince you of something. Either it's their personal opinions about something in their life or in the world, or about your life. It can be easy to really lose yourself through all of these suggestions that people give us all the time. But when you journal, you've sort of taken the time to really solidify like how you feel about something, and it's a lot easier to stay true to that when you go into public situations. At least that's kind of what I've found. I've journaled on and off for the better part of like a decade, but over the past year, having it as a more regular practice again in my life, I've found it easier to like stand my ground in how I feel and not be so easily swayed one way or another. Finding what works for you definitely takes a bit of experimentation, but in terms of like actually just like doing anything, I do have a few suggestions. Remember, they're just suggestions. Don't take this to heart if any of these things like don't jive with you if you're trying to start out journaling. But if you need a bit of inspiration as to like where to start, maybe you could keep these types of things in mind. I kind of think of journaling as a way to supplement like what you need in life. So like, let's say you've been feeling really down in the dumps, like you need more positivity in your life. You could journal about positive things. Let's say you feel like you need more gratitude in your life. You feel like there's just so much loss, which I do feel a lot of us go through on a day-to-day basis, currently. So you should journal about things that you're grateful for, or, as they say, a gratitude journal. Studies do show that, people who have gratitude journals tend to have a more positive outlook on life. Let's say you're trying to figure out what your next move should be, whether that be in a career or in a relationship or where to move. These are all questions I'm going through. You should journal about how certain activities in your life make you feel, like how do you feel when you're at work, or how do you feel when you're in the presence of particular people, and really document that through time. Going back to the thing that I said earlier about like journaling once every 6 months, the reason that I don't feel that that's a very beneficial way to go about journaling is because you're not able to like see progression of your thoughts or your emotions through time. So that's just a little tidbit as to why I think you should journal somewhat frequently. I mean, it doesn't need to be like 5 times a day, but definitely more than once every 6 months if you can fit it into your schedule somewhere. I mean, lately I've been noticing that I'm journaling about a lot of the same things just with regards to like what next steps are for me in life. And, I don't have answers yet. I don't think that it's healthy to just like disregard the way that you feel because it's not convenient to deal with right now. Just writing down your thoughts and emotions can help you pinpoint over time like how to actually solve the problem at hand. I think about it this way. I'm never going to get any closer to resolving my internal issues if I don't pinpoint what I think. Little experiment here. I want you to just follow your thoughts for like 10 seconds. You don't need to like take notes. You don't need to do anything. Just 10 seconds. Kind of watch where your brain goes. Okay, if you're a human being, I would imagine that your brain went a bunch of different directions. And that's fine. That's natural, actually. But noticing how your thoughts travel so quickly, just imagine like all the things that you think that are sort of just lost forever because you don't take the time to write anything down. And this isn't to say that like anytime you have a thought, like you need to document it. That would be overwhelming. I honestly don't even think that would be possible. But the point is that you do think a lot. And if you're not taking note, you're not able to like assess patterns. Like for me, for example, I journaled about building up the confidence to make YouTube videos for literal months before I actually just did the thing. And it happened because I noticed through like multiple months I'd been talking about it, and I got tired of just writing about it, that I needed to actually just do something about it. And I think that journaling has the power to instill that type of motivation in a lot of different aspects of our lives. It doesn't have to be necessarily picking up a new activity or a new habit, but it can also be getting rid of things in your life that no longer serve you, in the terms of yoga people. Whenever I say get rid of what no longer serves you, I feel like I'm supposed to be a yoga instructor, and I'm not one. Maybe someday. We'll see. I should write that down. What I think is fascinating and interesting to keep in mind is that our actions and our thoughts follow patterns. Like a lot of the times, the things that we do on a day-to-day basis are just habits that we have, and we sort of just live on this like habit autopilot, which is one, interesting, but two, alarming, because if you're not cognizant enough or aware enough of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, then you're kind of just like floating through this world. And I think that journaling is a great way to sort of materialize the things that we do on a day-to-day basis so that we can sort of get out of that autopilot and have a little bit more control over what we do in our lives. This is control. It's strong. So hopefully I've been able to convince you one way or another that journaling can help you in life through time. I don't think that it's something that just like when you start it and then a month later you're expecting your life to feel like zen. That's not going to happen either. But you know, if you give it some time, you'll be able to open up sort of like this new pathway into your mind to actually pinpoint your thought patterns and what you like and what you don't like and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So I would love to hear your thoughts just on journaling in general. Like, have you actually tried it before? Do you do it regularly? If you don't like journaling, maybe you can express why, and I'd be interested to hear. It's really just interesting for me to know like why people like or don't like certain practices. If you enjoyed the content of this video, I would love if you subscribed, if you hit the like button down there. I generally like talking about things like mindfulness or books or just life experiences and reflections. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely subscribe. And thanks for watching. Until next time. Sometimes I use journaling to practice my terrible drawings.